update by end of business today as to what they might be able to provide. We originally had 24 H100s. We're now saying 12. And we also told them that we would accept A100 instead of H100s because it sounds like H are really hard to get. There are two configurations of those cards. There's ones that plug into PCI Express, and there's ones that plug into something called SXM, which is like an NVIDIA interconnect. I'm not sure. I guess that replaces NVLink. I'm not quite sure.
It's this SXM is the socket that the GPU is slot into so that it can provide more power and bandwidth.
Okay, so we have to specify which kind. And after a lot of going back and forth, I think we ended up with the PCI Express ones that we prefer. Although he said the SXM ones might be easier to get.
But the SXM, I think the server for the SXM can only work with 8 GPUs. So I believe we can't use SXM. But then he said, well, there may be something else. So I got a little confused there. There's a part number 4124/AS-GS and -GO. The -GO is XSM and requires 8 GPUs. The -GS is their older model, quote unquote, which takes Milan and and allows 4 GPUs, and it might be SXM, Brian.
Okay.
Look, I've got notes. I've got all these notes too.
So I think I understand their not naming convention. So there's two things. First of all, SXM and PCI Express. And there are two flavors of those systems, one with Milan and one with Genoa. The Milan is the older generation, and that's the 4124. And the Genoa, which is the latest AMD CPU, that's 4125. The GS means that it's PCI Express. The GO means it's SXM. So
yeah,
it turns out if we went SXM, they don't have that available with Genoa. So even if first of all, we can't do 8 GPUs. Secondly, we get an older last year's CPU instead of this year's CPU from AMD. So it sounds like our preference would be to go with a 4125, which has the latest CPU from AMD, which we can get up to 64 cores per socket, so 128 cores, and do PCI Express for the GPUs because we can't. First of all, you can't have Genoa with those, and secondly, can't have 8 of them anyway. That's the rules say each node can't be over 2 kilowatts. And I think we're throwing around some numbers like 350 watts per GPU. So times 8, that's already over our budget. So that's where we ended up. What our action item is to come up with what's called a BOM, which is a bill of materials, and send that to Supermicro so they can, one, see if they have that system, 2, give us an estimate how much power it would actually consume, because I have to change it, and 3, give us some idea what the lead time would be, meaning how long it would take them to get it to us. And there's probably a bunch of trade-offs, like they may say, oh, well, if you go to the older system, we can get it to you, a month earlier or something. I don't know. But we have to give him something to work with. So that's what I think is probably the next action item for us. Did I get that right, Mary?
Yeah, I think for the timeline, I asked him about that. And I think for the 4124, if NVIDIA can get the GPU cards to Supermicro by the end of August, then they need 2 weeks to build. They prefer to have them there so they can plug them in, the network interface cards there so they can plug them in and test and develop the entire system, which as they were talking, I think Brian and Kai and I realized that was part of the problem last year, is we had a system that we were building on the fly. It was very fun and experimental, but it never quite worked right. So he wants the cards. And then he said 2 weeks and then we'll ship it to SCSC and they're in San Jose. So we should be able to get that by the 2nd to 3rd week of September if we can push NVIDIA to get the cards to them before the end of August. But then there's Labor Day weekend in that mix. So that's going to delay. So we'll probably have a system by the 3rd week of September. But the difference between this year and last year is it will be a whole entire complete system with the operating system installed and all the basic core software tested and running and debugged, the GPU cards in. We know GPU, we're not trying to learn Instinct. And I'm hoping that the MPI software will be installed and running.
Yeah, I'm looking at the configure thing here. I don't see that, but it's something we can ask them about.
Okay, yeah, we can ask them if they're going to put in at least one. It was, like I mentioned at the meeting this afternoon, it was really frustrating to me and somewhat embarrassing that even with Mahidar and Marty and me and Brian and all the students trying to install the message passing interface library and to make it work, we couldn't. Christopher Irving, no one could get it to run. And I thought, there's something else wrong. And now I think we have that answer. I think right now we should maybe, if you guys have any questions, otherwise start doing that BOM. And Brian is that the link you put in there?
That's the link. So if somebody wants to take the lead on that, they can start filling it out, share their screen. We can talk about it.
Yeah, and
then,
Brian,
what
excuse me for a moment. Brian, you have a timeline today, is that right?
Yeah, I have to leave probably by 4:30, like about 45 minutes.
Okay.
4:45 if I push it. I got to take a shower and then I have to get in the car and drive up to Carlsbad. So
I'd like to volunteer Zijan for that because he's going to be the co-lead with Kai, and that way we have one of the two leads on it, and then somebody else to also be making sure they're following it, so that when Brian leaves, we have a student who understands what we're ordering.
Yeah,
if that's okay with everybody. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, yeah, that's great, Zijan, if you wouldn't mind taking lead on that. And what I was going to say is what I think the output of this is you should be able to save the configuration and like print it out, but then you're going to want to attach in an email that configuration plus things like, oh, we want Ubuntu, whatever, 22 point, whatever, with MPI installed. And this has no option for InfiniBand cards. So you're going to want to specify InfiniBand NIC. Apparently Supermicro doesn't offer it according to this configuration thing. So it's little things like that that you're going to want to supplement an email, just so Patrick has some idea, because he doesn't forget.
And then when you mail it, we'll make sure you mail it to all the right people, but also we include NVIDIA because they're who will try to borrow a InfiniBand cards from, right?
Right.
Larry, could you enable me screen sharing, please?
Oh, yes. 1 second. I am meeting leader. How do I do this again?
The nice thing about this architecture and not doing Instinct is it is the same as Expanse to within first order. And so you can all start running code on Expanse and translate those experiences right over to our cluster whenever it gets here. And think of a name for the cluster. Neil was great, but if you want to have a different name for the cluster, we could request a name when they're building it out. So
okay, go for it, Zijan.
Oh, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I need to go get some water. I'll be right back.
So just a little about the system. It's a 4U. Means 4 rack units high, so it's pretty tall, but that's okay. We're going to just have 3 of them. And I already didn't save my things. Okay, so first decision you want to make is the CPU. And I don't see any reason not to ask for the biggest, baddest one. Just that one.
How much is how many?
Well, you're not going to want 16 cores. That's ridiculous, right? So you're gonna want either the 128 core or the 112 core. I think there's a 96 core one too, but if you calculate the power per watt, I was just doing that. The 128 is more efficient than the 112. So I'm assuming 360 watts is peak TDP, and that if you use fewer cores, you'll get lower power. But that's something we need, some guidance from Supermicro on.
Yeah, I think 128 is the maximum cores among the list.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's 256 cores in a node. That's a lot. So that's it'd be great if they can provide that.
And then for memory, do we have special needs for what kind of memory? They are both DDR5.
Is it only up to 128?
Mm-hmm.
You can put up to 24 DIMMs.
Oh,
in
right,
the
there's
system.
DIMMs, right.
So I was thinking, so that they don't bend over backwards trying we don't oh, we can't get enough DIMMs. Maybe, a terabyte would be a lot of memory, which is not even fully populated. So you do 16 DIMMs of one of these guys. For right now, you're at 3 terabytes.
It's like 8 DIMMs per. So yeah, 24. And SATA storage.
So on board, it lets you do one drive. I don't really think you care that much. Are there any benchmarks that have a lot of disk?
There is only one that I know of, and that would be MPass. I was looking over the code, and they have some pretty high IO usage just because how they tessellate the surface.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
But if we go, let me check. If we're using the 4125 GS chassis and we're not fully populating it with GPUs, what we can actually do is use the liquid cards from last year, because
Oh, that's true. So here you only get one slot, so you just have to pick one.
I would just use one for the boot drive. There, yeah.
WPD, I had to look that up. It's daily writes per day or daily writes per drive or something like that. So it's how, SSDs wear out when you write them a lot. So that's kind of like a wear metric. So you could choose any of these. I don't know that you're going to need that much storage, so I'll probably just pick something in the middle. Because if you pick the really big one, then it's going to be that maybe another thing that's hard to get, and it'll just hold the system up.
I mean, we could just specify to Patrick that the storage is not as important.
That's critical, yeah. So you just pick one. Yeah, it's a good one. I don't know what the 7mm. That must be a different form factor.
What are the differences between DWPD?
So the higher the number, the more writes per day you can do without wearing it out.
Then do we want more?
That we would worry about, but
okay.
If you're gonna buy the system for the long term, you want and you're gonna do a lot of writes to it. You want you want with a higher multiple of 4 would be better than 2.5. They're all 6 gigabit, so the bandwidth's the same. And there's only one drive, so it's not a RAID or anything fancy. So you're just going to use this one for local files that /temp you might use it for. And the system comes with one rotating media already.
We're getting the our network, our InfiniBand set up through NVIDIA, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Oh, it's got these other drives too. I didn't see the NVMe before. So these are the high performance ones.
Yeah.
But they're also pro NVMe.
That's just a reliability thing on the drives.
Okay.
How many of these can you put in? Because they're a PCI Express slot. Oh, you still only have one.
I believe it's normally 1 or 2, depending on the.
Yeah, it says 1 drive bay. So pick one. Maybe you don't need the onboard SSD if you're gonna get one of these.
Um.
What are the differences between OBM to NVMe with an SSD?
Onboard M.2, onboard NVMe. Huh, interesting. So you get 4 drive bays for the other NVMe and only 1 for the M2s. Must have to be with how big they are.
I think it's because the M.2 ones are normally tied to a PCI the Express bus.
And what are the other ones on? They're not
I-
PCI, also PCI
The
Express.
SATA bus on the, or I guess it's the SAS bus on the motherboard.
No, but
It's
I think
says-
I think it's just a different connector.
but
The
yeah.
M.2 NVMe has is like one of those like small ones that go directly into the board,
Mhm.
and then the NVMe has like a cable connecting it. I forget the exact details.
so M.2. The form factor M2.
But I don't think it's that important.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So the other drives use a cable and the M2s don't, but there's only 1 socket, so that's why you can only have 1.
For OB NVMe, do we have any preferences here? We have 7mm, 15, some other choices.
Yeah, if you're gonna use liquid cards, I don't know if you care, but
Like
I guess you should put
realistically,
something.
I would just put that like 1 drive for like a boot drive, and that's kind of it.
Would we even be considering like a RAID 1 setup for the boot drive just for increased reliability?
I don't think we need it because my thought was we would run like if we were going to do something fancy, we just have a bare bone like boot drive separate, and then we run like some external parallel file system on top of it, so we can run our applications for like the scratch storage if we wanted a high low latency IO. Because like once like the node's booted, it just the storage setup is kind of straightforward. It's booting off of the parallel file system is always a pain.
I think we can look at the applications, although I haven't had time. Do any of them have large data?
Only one of them that I've
Sets.
noticed, and that's MPass.
Who went to the MPass webinar? I had a conflicting appointment. Did they talk about the data size?
I think it's around like at least 40 gigs for the
Oh,
data set, and then
so
we have
really
to
it's probably. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and we have to do a ton of like pre-processing and post-processing. So we would actually benefit from using some distributed file system if you wanted to.
Yeah, so in the old days before SSDs, you had to really balance doing a RAID and backup because of the power, but SSDs don't cost that much, right? And then when I was walking off to go get water, Brian, you were talking about the power requirement for the RAM. What
Yeah.
did we decide how much it would cost us to get like massive RAM?
Oh, that's an interesting idea, because then they could put the files in RAM.
Oh no.
That
Yeah,
would be the fastest, right?
Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think you have like 3 terabytes specified right now, so it should be plenty.
Oh my gosh.
So, maybe that's something feedback we could give them. Hey, we'd prefer to have more DRAM than disk if it came down to it.
Yeah, I mean, we would have a distributed file system of the disk, the SSDs, which might be as easy to coordinate as having, a large single. I don't really know how to do the file system. Do we just go for one big one on one of the nodes and
Um,
use that as our master file system?
I was thinking more so along the lines of each node has its own like boot drive, and then we have a separate like we use the liquid cards in like a sort of separated parallel file system setup, where we just use that as like a scratch space.
Do we need to get those liquid cards installed by Supermicro?
I don't think so. Because because we're not fully populating this chassis and it already has the PCIe cards.
Okay.
What do you mean? Oh, we're going to use the enclosure from last year?
No, because the liquid cards are actually the same height and length as the GPUs.
Okay, but I remember last year we had trouble fitting them in.
We had trouble because that was the XXM chassis, and the XXM chassis has only half length and half height card slots.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Although if they offered to install them for us, we probably should take them up on it.
I
Are we
think
going to use the ones that we have right now? Or does Liquid still love us and want to give us new ones because we took so long to get a report to them?
they just let us keep the ones we have now, but I think we get to the liquid setup only if we need the big storage, because like it sort of looks like we don't really need to.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you run that benchmark on 128 cores on one node, if that's enough, then if you just put the file system in DRAM, that's going to be the highest performance thing you're going to get.
Yeah.
So, then there's nothing wrong with that. Unless you want to go across multiple nodes and then, then you need some kind of distributed file system. And I'm not sure how you do that in RAM. There might be a way to do it, but
There are ways. I did it on my test cluster at some point. It was terrible.
terrible performance or terrible to set up.
Terrible to set up.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, keep going.
But it's like it's like an implementation detail that kind of.
Okay, so did you guys choose storage for NVMe regular? NVMe, not M2? You need it?
I think we need that much storage is the thing.
And should we lower it to 1.92 terabytes?
Yeah, sure. Let's.
Really hard to say what's the difference between any of these.
Wait, don't we only need one boot drive?
We're having 3 nodes, so it would be 1 per node, right?
Yeah, so these are all the same. We're assuming they're all going to be.
I've been asking questions with mute. Why are we going so small in storage on each node? Does it cost a lot to have a 5 terabyte SSD drive? Do they? I mean, I'm just wondering.
I am not a storage person, but
I'm sure it costs a lot. I don't think we really care.
yeah, that's the main thing. But I mean, if we, I guess we
You could
could.
ask for a bigger drive.
I have 2 terabytes hanging off my USB-C, and it's a little warm, but that's about it. So 6 terabyte. This is petascale computing era. So I'm thinking, are we going to go dope? We should have had more storage, or is that where you envision the liquid coming into play, Kai?
That's sort of what I'm envisioning.
And so, what power consumption does the liquid devices cost? They'd have to be in their own server, right? Or are we assuming there'll be a slot to fit them in?
Well, so the GPU chassis that we're requesting from Supermicro, right? It has space for 8 GPUs, but we're only going to saturate with 4 GPUs. So we're going to have 4 sort of PCIe lanes or PCIe slots left over that are
Okay.
more than enough for the liquid cards.
Aren't the liquid cards pretty high power consumption though?
I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, let's look that up. By the way, guys, early September, we have a poster due.
Yes.
And this system, we'll need a really clean, clear architecture diagram as part of the poster while Kai's looking this up. So I want all the pieces on there, the kind of network, the interconnection, the part numbers, and we'll put that on the poster. And the design choices. So it's really great that you guys are here and listening in and participating. What I'd like some of you to do is go look at the applications and see if you can get an idea of whether or not we'll be able to use this system effectively for them. Which ones of them are CPU, which ones of them are GPU, which ones of them are both. Because they'll ask us to do both. Usually they have you do parameter scanning. There's the benchmarks, and you have to run them on all the pieces. On all of the components like CMG, and they ask you to report based on the application and what it can run on. Except MLPerf has to be on CPU. My understanding is it doesn't do GPU.
MLPerf.
No, it does do GPU, just doesn't do AMD GPU.
That's we had to run
It doesn't. Okay.
We had to run it CPU last year because of that.
So what's the big thing about machine learning and AI that we've all learned if we've done a lot of it is my experience is it brings down the Lustre file system at SDSC with no mercy. Once a week, somebody's running some CNN or DNN and moving a bunch of images, and they bring down the file system. So we have to worry about that. Little teeny tiny files and billions of them moving in and out, bringing down the I/O. So is the liquid going to help with that? Maybe, if they're better for small file I/O.
So if that's the case, then let's assume we don't have liquid. That's a bonus. So
Yeah.
let's just configure the system like you would if you didn't have the liquid drives.
Okay.
So I assume you're going to want a quantity of NVMe rather than, because this has 4 bays, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you wanted to run some kind of fancy file system that's striped across multiple drives, you can want multiple drives instead of just one.
You'd want to maximize the bandwidth. So like
Yeah,
a ton of
like
small drives or something.
Four of whatever size you want.
Yeah, let's see. You guys who are sitting in here as well, can you look up the power consumption of these NVMe PCIe's made by that Supermicro is offering us? Let's get an idea, make some decision based on knowledge. See if somebody can find it faster than Zhejiang. I'm gonna win a bet today.
The honey bat or the liquid cards, they run at around 70 watts.
Okay.
And we would put 4 into each, so that's 280 watts.
I believe we only have 4. Because I think they're like 5 terabytes each. But realistically, we'd only have like 1 liquid card per node.
Well, assuming Liquid still loves us, because I finally sent all the reports to
right.
them myself.
I was
and
just
it
saying
was just last month.
I was just saying we just use the old cards that we still have.
Yeah, we can use the old ones, but maybe they want to give us new ones.
Right.
But we're going to have to be a lot better in providing that report that we promise.
And I have to go pretty soon, so let's just keep scrolling down. You guys can figure out the drives without me.
For sure.
Okay.
So network, they don't offer InfiniBand, so I guess you don't need to do anything there. It's got an onboard 10 gig for other things.
Yeah,
And
You want or don't want?
I don't think you need that because you're
don't
gonna wanna
think we
put
need
an
it.
InfiniBand card, none of these are.
yeah,
Okay.
Unless you wanna go to Ethernet instead, I mean, you could do 100 gig Ethernet.
that is finicky.
Yeah, I also think then you have to find an intricate switch. Okay, there's your 4 cards, awesome.
Well, these are only for PCIe, right? We're not doing XSM.
Right, because this system
Right.
doesn't support that.
NVIDIA H100 PCIe Gen 5 passive cooling graphics. Kidding.
You don't care about the warranty.
Do we need monitor?
No. We have tons of those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any warranties? No?
no. I don't
EPM
care
module.
about the TPM.
No.
What is TPM, trusted platform model?
It's an encryption thing, I think. It's yeah. Data center management suite. That might be nice.
Yeah. They already added the cables for you. So you see, there's nothing you hear about installed software. So that's something we'd have to ask them, like what operating system we want and what.
I don't think I was there when they were initially setting it up, but was it pre-installed with an OS only when they shipped it to us?
I don't remember.
I think so. It knew its name. Its name was Neil.
All right.
Yeah, it had operating system on it, and then the team had a great time playing with different operating systems, which we won't do.
We'll
So
probably
you
just-
should think about what you want and ask them if we can get them to install it.
You know, the wise thing I think would just be to stick with it, whatever Expanse is running on, which I think is Rocky 8. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it's now Rocky.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Rocky.
Okay,
Hopefully
so,
everybody
um,
here.
so all you guys have to decide is the drives. And I think we were saying you probably want multiple, depending on the power consumption of these OB NVMe.
Yeah, I was about to say I found the power consumption specs. So first of all, the difference between the M.2 and the OB NVMe is that OB NVMe uses a U.2 connector instead of an M.2 connector. Sorry, U.3 connector. And then I can send the data sheet into the chat. For the it's like 10.5 watts read and 14 watts write. Look on page 17.
Or 17?
Page 7.
Whoa.
M2s are lower power consumption. So the one without the M2, is that a U3 form factor or E1.5?
I believe it's a it should be a U.3 form factor, especially the 76
Okay, so we're talking
7680.
roughly 15 watts. Yeah, 12 to 15 watts. Say 15. So 4 of these will be 60 watts.
I think for what 2 terabyte or the biggest one.
What size is this that we're looking at? Oh, is that's the first line? So right, that's 12.8, 6.4, 3.2, 1.68. Is that the speed or is that capacity? That's capacity. 12.8 gig. We're talking about 15 watts. So if you choose you don't save much power by going to 6.4 gig. Don't save any power.
Gig?
I'm
Don't we
sorry,
want
terabytes.
terabyte, Brian? I was going to go gig. I can carry that in my purse, but okay, terabytes is more like it. Yeah. So, trying to.
So you save a bit of power if you went to like 800 gig times 4 would give you 3.2 terabyte. I don't know, maybe it's not worth nickel and diming this. Because that's not continuous operation, so I think you have to worry too much. So yeah, put 4 of those, I'd put 4 of those OB and VMEs in. Maybe you don't need the M.2. I'm not sure what you'd use it for.
My only thought is if it's a bandwidth thing.
Which one of them do we want for 4?
Oh, these numbers. I don't understand them.
Me either.
CD 6, 7, B.
450 max. Don't know. What I might do is just tell him what you want, like you want 4 6.4 terabyte NVMe drives, and let them pick the one that is easiest to get.
Yeah. Because we're
Or do
directly
that and
emailing.
just say we don't care which one, or you recommend one because we don't know the difference.
Mhm.
And we don't want the system to be held up because we're waiting for that one part.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just let them optimize the performance, like the storage for us, or from their wisdom.
Yeah.
I'm on mute again. Where at the NVMe that you're looking at, Brian or Zhijiang, keep going, go back. All of them look the same to me. Go back up.
Go back up. Oh,
Yeah, right there. The NVMEs, like you're picking 4 6.4 terabyte. There's 3 entries that all look the same to me. And
Yeah,
am I?
one's CD6, the other is,
Oh, I see.
I'm not
7450.
sure between the second and the third what the difference is. They look exactly the
No,
same.
what's a D7P5620?
E7, E6.
this one.
Let us know if you have any questions. What's the difference between all these guys? Huh.
I think there might be different brands.
7450.
Yeah, so D7 P5620 is Solidyne.
Yeah, I think the middle 2 are microns and the top one's a Kioxia.
Okay. I
So
don't really care. I mean, I don't know.
we
the
don't
difference.
care. All right, so pick
They can
Micron.
pick one that they can get.
Okay.
We're already over 100K, 126,000.
Yes, go.
$27,000.
Go, go, go.
For the M2, do we have any preferences for how large the capacity should be? We're choosing 1.9 and the maximum is 3.8.
What is M2 versus what's the difference between OBM and the OBN NVMe?
Yeah,
The
so
OBM underscore 2?
the M.2, they're different connectors basically. M.2 uses an M.2 connector, and then the other one uses a U.3 connector.
And what do we only have room for 4 of these cards? No.
We can have
Because
4 of the U2, U3s and 1 of the M2s.
oh yeah, I meant U3, sorry.
And why would we do a mixed?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying we don't really need the M2. But
Yeah,
I
let's
would
just keep them.
wait.
Go
If
ahead.
we're using like the U.3 drives for scratch, right? Shouldn't we have an extra one for boot? Would that be easier?
oh, there's a hard drive that comes with it. There's a rotating one that comes with the system. But sure, Yeah, well, okay, use the M2 for boot. That'd be faster.
And then we can get rid of the SATA SSD.
Oh, yeah, we have that one too.
SATA.
Yeah, so
Bye-bye.
or I don't know. Maybe it boots really easily off the SATA, and maybe it's harder to make it boot off OBM. I don't know.
I don't think it matters too much for that. It could,
I think like I remember some motherboards have trouble with like booting off. It should not matter for like a new system.
I just feel like if you pick the SSD, I know it'll work. And if you try to, like, if you took out the SSD, sorry, the SATA drive, and tried to rely on one of these NVMEs, maybe it doesn't work. Probably it does, but maybe. I mean, Mahi and those guys could probably answer this question better than me. But,
I think it's more of a Chris Irving question.
or Chris Irving. Yeah, you could run it by Chris. Hey, do we need the M2 drive?
But I think it's kind of a non-issue in terms of if we need it to be respec, it's probably the easiest thing to change.
If it comes pre-installed with Ubuntu or something, then we know it'll boot, right?
Yeah, they
So-
normally run tests before they ever ship it out.
And they're probably going to install that on the hard
Okay.
drive.
Let's table this discussion. Let me make a suggestion. Put them all in and just let Patrick know that once we hear from NVIDIA, we want maybe tomorrow, those of you who are on campus, Kai or Paco, go see Chris if he's in the building in the morning. They'll be all at the picnic in the afternoon. And run those by, say, what kind of storage, or Mahi or Marty, find somebody you can talk to, and then we can tell Patrick the final storage architecture that we want. Right now, it's just a request, and it's not exactly what he's going to build to order.
Yeah.
I would do it, but I can't. My husband's got COVID, so I'm waiting to make sure I don't. I'm feeling, yeah, I know I'm feeling fine, but he's isolated in the back end of the house, and so I'm not going to come out of the house and
Is he feeling
expose
okay?
people.
Is he feeling all right?
I'm feeling great. He's feeling pretty. He was pretty crappy, but they got him on Paxlovid yesterday. Like he had symptoms, and that morning, and he was on Paxlovid that afternoon.
Well, you're the second person in as many weeks that I've talked to either has COVID or someone in their house that has COVID.
We've had 2 summer institutes, and people got COVID at both of them. So it's there, it's wandering around, just waiting for somebody who's vulnerable. So anyway, anyway, if you kids, people on the team could go find like Mahidar and run the system designed by him, that would be really helpful. And then we get that back to Patrick. But go ahead and let's finish this and get it submitted.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you guys are good, right? There's nothing else we need to specify because they don't let you specify this stuff.
Nothing on that one. It's just probably a note for us on towards who's our NVIDIA contact in terms of networking for their cluster.
That the networking, well, we're going to ask. We've asked NVIDIA to get us an InfiniBand cards for the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't specify which one.
I would say whatever. It's like they give us the switch.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell them
then...
that it doesn't have to be the highest performance because it's not going to be our bottom. But yeah, so get us the latest, greatest, and the fastest possible switch. That's great, but if it's not,
but I mean, like our NIC selection is going to be based off of whatever the switch is.
exactly.
Right. So somebody look up the smallest InfiniBand switch that we can use. That's the latest standard. There's.
NVIDIA has.
I don't think the new ones have any small ones.
Yeah, that's the problem. But we want the latest standard. It's the E something. I remember that from last year. EDR, yeah, I think it's the InfiniBand EDR. And if you guys can get me, put that in the note to Patrick, and we'll see. In fact, everybody who was at the meeting today, we want to get this to them and then ask for that. Let's ask for a particular InfiniBand EDR switch. Can somebody find us a part number? I think their smallest one is like 12 connections or
is it?
16.
I thought 12 was when it was FDR, which is like eons ago. I'll look. So all the ones I see are like 36 port, which is insane.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm looking at NVIDIA's website. That's a 32 port.
There's a
Well-
216 port.
We don't really care as long as it's under 500 watts.
Yeah.
Good point, Brian. Good point. Yes, you're right.
And
But we also have to have we have to wait before we go too fast. We also have to have an Ethernet switch because that'll be essential. Although, well, do we need an Ethernet switch on the cluster? We need an Ethernet port that we can connect to from outside, and we'll be allowed to do that like an Ethernet port splitter on your development table, the competition, so you can all connect your laptops. But we don't need.
I would
Hmm.
assume that you'd want a little small Ethernet switch on the cluster.
Yeah,
Just because
but
that
it's
way you'll get it working quickly without having to worry about configuring the InfiniBand.
yeah. So maybe an 8-port switch, and that's like 150 watts. It won't be over 200, right?
Oh no, yeah, you can get a cheap little switch at 8 ports.
I think we have one in the club
20
room.
watts or something. I think we have one, right?
We have one running off the
Okay.
test cost card if we want to use that.
Okay. All right. So what's the power for the NVIDIA switch?
It's realistically dependent on the networking modules you use, but because they normally tout the max wattage on it, but we're not going to get half of that. Let me just find.
You broke up on that, so I didn't quite follow everything you said.
Well, the power consumption of the switches kind of vary a lot depending on what modules you use. Specifically the
Okay.
optical ones, but I think we should be able to fit under 500. I'm trying to look for one of them right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, like 136 watts is like the typical power consumption for an EDR switch, which is like perfect.
Okay.
It's close to 130 watts, so we're perfectly under the power watt or the wattage of the networking gear.
Okay, so between the InfiniBand and Ethernet, we're well under 500.
Oh, okay.
It's just a link to the switch, the EDR ones.
Option is the thinking about, or are they different things?
Oh, good point.
What do you say?
So NVIDIA has this internet called NVLink, which hooks up the GPUs. And in the meeting, they said we would need an NVLink switch to connect the 4 GPUs.
I believe that
that's
was
not-
only if we use CXM, no? Or SXM.
No, I thought he said if we, so you think you could, that wasn't the impression I got. I thought they said, oh, you needed an NVLink switch. But maybe I misunderstood that.
Because from all the stuff I'm seeing, it's always in the context of something like an internal component for the SXM.
My notes say that the SXM has NVLink across 8 GPUs. I don't know what that really means. But we do want an NVLink bridge, internal or external, that we can use to directly
Oh, yeah,
link
they
the
call it a bridge.
GPUs.
Yeah.
Yeah, now is that on all the GPUs on one node, and then we still have to link them across nodes?
I think maybe it's suggesting we don't try to do that. We just link them within the node.
Okay.
because that's another switch.
NVLink and NVS switch. So there's a NVIDIA, I don't know what you're looking at, but let me put this in here. It had a neat little diagram. Okay, so I'm looking at that page.
Yeah, I think for 4, I don't think we need an NVLink switch. NVLink's direct GPU. Blah, blah, blah.
The NVLink provides 1.5x higher bandwidth and improved scalability for multi-GPU system configurations. A single NVIDIA H100 Tensor Core GPU supports up to 18 NVLink connections for a total of bandwidth of 900 gigabytes per second over the 7x bandwidth of PCIe Gen 5. So I think we should try and get one.
I mean, the more we can get, the better.
I think so, but now what's the power for the, they don't show, do they show the NVLink on the, they don't have that on Supermicro, do they?
Doesn't look like it.
See
Let's
it.
see.
This page I found is just Max second, third, fourth generation.
Wait, 4th generation is for the H100, I believe.
Yeah, Hopper. And then the third is for the A100, 600 gigabits. So we want third generation technology. But I haven't found power specs yet. I don't know what the difference is between an NV link and an NV switch, but those are two different things.
I think the NV switch supports more GPUs. Also, I found this random website that says 100 watts for the NV switch.
Oh, yes. But how many? Okay, so we would need 3 of those, one for each node.
I assume so. I'm not sure.
Well, there's an NVLink switch and NVLink bridge.
That Power Edge CPU GPU. Oh dear. Can you put that link in the chat, please? Whoever's showing that, is that Jijan? Is that you?
Yeah, I put it in.
Great. Great.
It seems like the graph here, it is saying XSM NVIDIA GPU uses NVLink, but for PCIe, they do not use NVLink. From the picture, I'm not quite sure.
Yes, but there's, no, that's probably why you need the NVLink bridge.
Yeah, I'm looking that up. NVIDIA NVLink. But we want the NVLink bridge. Is anybody finding anything on that? High speed. What is the NVLink bridge?
ask GPT for this question?
Sure, sure. Let's see what we have to be careful because it makes up answers, right?
Yeah. Let me see if using 4 can tell me something different.
Oh, I think the NVLink bridge can only join up to 2 GPUs.
Sounds right.
Okay,
Oh.
NVLink bridge just bridges 2 GPUs. Yeah, I see that now. Here, look at this document.
It seems like NV switch is a DGX only thing. Doesn't seem right.
That you get to choose between having your GPUs fully connected in a node and using older CPUs versus using the newer CPUs, you choose the newer CPUs.
Yeah.
How many cores did we have last year in the node?
128, I think.
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh, so Milan also has 64 cores per. Oh, this, okay. Genoa has 128 cores per socket, so twice as many cores.
Wow.
256 cores per node.
Wait.
Okay, so you want at least this NVLink bridge, which sounds like it's a cable. Yes.
And so that we can just connect two together, not
Yeah,
four.
so a pair of them could be connected, and between those pairs, they have to communicate over PCI Express.
But we can't use the other. We can't use the switch. We can only use the bridge.
That's the NVLink switch. Oh, that's the thing that's 100 watts.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The NVLink is 100 watts.
I can't find anything about the NV or the NVIDIA's like it doesn't seem like it's an external switching thing. Because everywhere I look online, it's like this thing called an NV switch, and it seems like an embedded chip that they use to actually do the interconnect.
Accelerating HPC workloads with NVIDIA A100 NVLink on the Dell Power Edge XE8545. And this is from April 2021. I just randomly found an article.
All right, I have to go.
Oh,
Thank you, Brian.
thank you, Brian.
And good progress. I think you got to, the NVIDIA guys can answer this question.
Yeah, I think Anthony, we can ask him directly when he tells us what A100s he's going to give us, because I did find this paper, I'll give it to you guys, that talks about PCIe A100s and SXM NVIDIA Link and PCIe, and they both are shown as having being connected. So or that you can use it. I think that's what it's telling me. So I'll put this link in here. You guys don't forget to save your chat so you have all these links. All right, bye, Brian. I think are we close enough to submit Jean and Kai?
Yeah, I think this is good. And if we did, or Patrick needs anything clarified, he'll just ping us
sorry.
back.
Okay. Yeah, I have let me save a table in that article that I just posted, Jijan, if you bring that up. It does not show arc. Oh, that's the one you're looking at. Go back up a little bit. There you go. See that table right there? That's the table I'm looking at. It shows the power consumption, but it shows configurations for A100 and V100 for both PCIe and SXM, and that the NVLink works. The V100, you can't use NVLink, but we're going to have A100s. So I think we're good from what I'm seeing here, and I don't know how. These are GPUs in the Power Edge server, and maybe it's different in the Supermicro. I'm not sure. But that's a question. The good news, I'll follow up with these questions. Mainly, can we use NVLink to connect all 4 on one node? Is that the main question to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
How's the GPU communication on one node if we just have full PCIe cards? It seems like most of the NVLink stuff is relegated to either the bridging stuff with the 600 bandwidth or the SXM modules, which is sort of looks like an all-to-all type communication.
Wouldn't the main
But-
problem for XSM is that we have 40 watts for one GPU with NVLink, so that would be 1600 for one node, and we have 3 nodes that is reaching to 4000.
I think I read the numbers, and we're like, depending on we're like a little bit above 4,000 if everything's on full tilt.
But that's the peak, and
Yeah.
we will have to learn to not run all 3 nodes at the peak on all 3 nodes.
Worst
Right,
case,
and
we just
that's
drop a GPU.
yeah. That's part of the game is you learn how to control the frequency of the CPU or the IO. I don't know what you change on the GPU, but you guys will learn how to control that for each. You'll profile each application, and also, like for benchmarking, this will be having more memory on our CPUs will be great for benchmarking HPL. So yeah, this is all part of it. But what we want to make sure is that when it's at the resting mode, what's the consumption when it's not doing any work? 80 watts or 400. If it's 400 in the idle mode, then we're in some trouble. I call that the peak TP something.
TDP.
TDP. That's the maximum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think we're good then.
We're good to send this out to Patrick, and then he'll get back to us.
Yes, and make sure we all get a copy of it. And then we should have a folder up on the Google Drive where you can put this information as well. If we don't have a hardware folder up on Google Drive, we should.
And we should start working on the
Yeah, for sure. If we
the poster.
and start working on the poster.
Do we still use our SC23 hardware that we made 1 or 2 months ago?
I'd base
would,
it off of that, but I'd use it as a good
it's going to be
baseline, really.
different. The
But
one
yeah.
I made is really elementary, and it shows 8 GPUs per node.
I would probably just
But you can
duplicate it.
start. I would make a whole new one. I can't find the PowerPoint for it because you're going to want to show the network interface cards. The interconnection network. Where are we going to put the InfiniBand router switch, the Ethernet switch? If you look at the architecture diagram we had from last year, you can get an idea of the kind of detail. I think the other thing I have up there is path. You can go to last year's supercomputing site, studentclustercompetition.us, and look at the team. There you go. And you can look at, actually, you want to go to the student, nope.
It's the third link actually.
Oh, is that, yeah, open it. There you go. And go down to the different teams. You can see their posters. Click on a team like
This is
Boston.
23.
Oh,
no.
okay. Go to
Oh,
history. Go to history. History. There you go. And there's the teams. And then you can look at their you can look at their posters and get an idea of what the posters and the layout look like.
Top right is the poster link.
I think it's
On top,
towards the
yeah.
top. There you go. I have yet to get a really great score on a poster for any of my teams, so I don't know really what's required, but as long as you do a respectable job. I think our hardware diagram is not as good as it could have been.
We get comments on our posters from last year or no?
I wasn't given any.
Okay, just making sure.
Let's look at go back to the list of other teams and do Tsinghua, who got first overall.
I think this year we have a different Tsinghua.
We might, yeah. I think they're competing in virtual.
Architecture on the left.
Wow. So they just describe, well, can you zoom in on that architecture image on the top? Not much detail there. So again, you can look at all the different posters. You can go back and look at ones from 2, 3, 4 years ago. And I suggest you guys take some time and do that just on your own. Take a look at them and then talk about how you want your poster to look. You'll be asked about the poster. You'll be asked, being here and helping pick out the components really helps your awareness. So that's good too. But we'll be meeting again next week, right?
Yep.
So maybe by then everybody will have had some time to think about it. I like a different kind of architecture diagram, but these guys got first overall. They did something right on it. That doesn't mean they got the highest poster score. I really I have to go look that up. And I need to go too. Go check on my husband, give him food. And this has been fun, and I'll let you know as soon as I hear from Andrew, which he promised 5 o'clock.
Anthony?
So 5 o'clock today, he's meeting right now, he said, with their education people. They have a whole branch for education. And when I changed the number from 24 GPUs to 12, he said it became really realistic. So we can count on the A100s, we just don't know when they would arrive. All right, I am gonna go. I'll check my email right now, but I don't see anything from him yet. I doubt if it'll come early. I'm expecting it might. Oh, wait, Anthony. It seems that NVIDIA is much larger because we usually support all student clusters, nearly 100. However, this year with supply constraints, let me bring this down here so I can read it. The across the board is proven to be much more difficult to support. So we may need to drop some of the requests to support yours. However, the GPU count, if approved, would be much smaller. It would be 2 PCI GPUs with NVLink per node for a total of 6 and necessary InfiniBand networking to support the 3 nodes. We're working on this modified smaller request now, and I hope to have a firm answer tomorrow. Well, bummer. Well, sorry guys, that's not in my control. It's not in his either.
So only 6 GPUs from what I'm hearing?
Only 6 GPUs. Unless we can find some others to borrow from our uncles and aunts or grandpas or other schools or something. Kai, don't you guys have a bunch of GPUs lying around on the NRP, or if we pull a few out, would they notice that they're gone?
The issue is we don't have A100s, and heterogeneous GPU setups are hard to work with. That's why most nodes or clusters have the same Like they're pretty homogeneous.
Okay. Well, this is out of our control.
Yeah.
So I think we either work with them and do 2 GPUs per node. Somebody's getting more GPUs than us. There's 11 teams. Well, no, there's a lot more teams as well. So we could go with the AMD Instincts, probably get as many as we could want.
Can we go for a node has 4 NVIDIA GPU and one has 2 NVIDIA, 2 AMD? Can we do something like this?
There might be some issues with scheduling on that front. Because a lot of the codes are tuned so that it's one type of GPU only.
Okay. I think
Okay.
I think the task of running the applications and the goal of running them optimally, let's separate the two. If we work with the AMD CPU, NVIDIA GPU stack, you guys will master that pretty readily. And we already have experts that know that. And we know that all the applications will run. And so we can succeed on that, that task area quite well. Now, optimally, we'll have to fiddle around and make some decisions on if we have a 2, 4, none, a 1, 4, 1 architecture, what that would mean. And then we could try to see if there's any way to borrow any from anybody. I think we don't have a lot of A100s at SDSC either. And I don't know if NVIDIA is looking at all of the SCC and getting it up among them evenly, I hope. If we come and somebody's got 24 GPUs and they got them from NVIDIA, I'll be very disappointed. But I can't control that. I can control giving you guys a good system that you can work on. So we could think in terms of, we've already been advised by Mahidar, don't do internode communication for the GPUs. So we could have one node with 6 GPUs, and that's where all the GPU stuff runs. That's the advantage. We could have them all in one node, but we can only run one job at a time on that node. And once we do the benchmarking, Zhijian, and whoever else is on the benchmarking team, then the system is free to run other applications. So what happens is on day 1.
I think the problem with that is that if we had them all in one node, they'd exceed the 2000 power limit.
On a
Right,
single node.
good point. Yeah. Pros and cons we'll have to think about. So an interesting challenge. All right. Yeah, we have to think about how to that's a really good point, Paco. So we would have one with 4 and another one with 2.
Or 2 with 3, which might be better.
Yeah, I don't know. Good point, and I don't know.
Because I think on the application side, both of the or I know like reproducibility and the magnetohydrodynamics code are CPU only, unless we want to modify them, which I don't think we should do for repro. So realistically, just the MHD code.
Okay.
And
that means they can be, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Kai.
No, I'm just saying if everyone else is also only running the MHD code CPU only, then we don't have, it's not that much of a detriment in terms of having the reduced GPU count, I think.
Yeah, the trick, guys, is to make sure whatever application you're involved in, you've profiled it so well that in the heat of the competition, something finishes, you can plug something in real quick and get it running, and nothing's ever idle while you're sitting there trying to make up your mind. What is that? So, yeah, I think we can talk about balancing things out. And at least we'll have 6A100s then figuring out what to do. A lot of times scaling across odd numbers of things doesn't work that well.
Right.
Like 3 GPUs, if we're going to use inter-GPU communication. We don't even know if the code we've got support multiple GPUs and how that would work. I imagine MLPerf would, because a lot of that is somewhat embarrassingly parallel. You divide up the work and then you collect it back together. You're just analyzing a bag of images. The images aren't interacting and changing each other. But a computational fluid dynamics application would be a bit different. So we have to think about how things will run.
Mary, will we
Yeah,
be able to get V100, 6 of them, if possible?
probably. Yeah. Would you rather have V100s? Oh, you mean to fill in the
Right.
slots? I'll ask them. That's a good question. Because one node could just be all V100s, and it might be a code that we're not trying to benchmark. We just want it to run and grind along and finish. And if it takes an hour or 3, we don't care as long as we can get it done. Okay, that's a good question. I'll ask them. We may even have some at SDSC. Okay, go ahead and get that written up and submitted. I'll share this result with everybody, and I'll reply and ask him about the V100s. Oh, I forgot, I didn't share the screen, did I? Let me share the screen for a moment. I meant to do that. A few minutes related to your request. It seems the request for NVIDIA is much larger because we usually support all student clusters, near 100 GPUs. All right, it's difficult to support, so we may need to drop some of the requests to support yours. However, the GPU count, if approved, would be much smaller. It would be 2 PCI GPUs with NVLink per node for a total of 6 and necessary InfiniBand networking to support the 3 nodes. Okay. All right, guys, I've got to go. Get that submitted and then share it with us. And I'll forward this email to everybody.
How do I submit this? Do I add to the card or just share the link?
Mary, I also have
Uh,
a question about like the team.
I don't know.
I
Yeah, add to the cart, I think, Shishan. Or save new. Oh, that save new might be. You continue shopping and go back down to save new. Did it remember everything? No. Huh. Go to your cart.
How do I go to my card?
Yeah,
Oh, here. View card.
yeah. 1 second,
Repositions.
Paco.
Repositions
And
bank
then
account.
Should you increase the quantity too?
yeah, I think you want 3. Is that just one node?
One node, yes.
Yeah,
Holy
right?
crap. Okay, let's keep our fingers crossed. Can you save this?
I can print it.
There's a save quote button at the
No,
bottom.
save quote down at the bottom. Save it.
Oh. Okay. Okay, it's saved.
But it didn't give you a link or anything.
Oh, I
Where did,
downloaded it. Give me a second.
this can ship in 1 week. Due to popularity, this item will ship in 3 to 4 weeks. Save quote.
Yeah, I sent to the chat. Are you able to open it?
On a reduced GPU system, you want to choose a different chassis.
Also, I think for this system, if we have 6 V100 and 6 A100, I don't think the system will handle the 2 different generations, because in here it didn't show up the option of V100.
Yeah. Let's get this order to Patrick and get him thinking about what we're asking for. Yeah, go ahead and mail us that quote. I could see it. Mail it to everybody who was at the meeting. Did you
Did
maybe
I
I
what?
will. Well, I'm looking for the invitation to I'm gonna send this to everybody. Um, give me a moment to figure out where I want to save it on my laptop. Okay, so I just sent a short note beyond it if you were on the invitation to the meeting. Wait a minute. I need to add a few more people. I've got Kai. I've got Jean. I don't have everybody. The competition team would be all of you guys and Irving. Christopher Irving.
Kai, I have a question.
What's up?
Mm-hmm.
You sent into the chat that we're allowed to modify the code,
Yes.
but when
Kyle was asking.
was reading the
I think Kyle was reading one of the posters, and then one of them mentioned like modifying the code for one of the applications, and
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think
When
they
I was
also
reading the
they
ML
also
perp, it's saying something different. We have the close one. The close one, you are not allowed to tune any of the code.
I know for the impasse in the webinar, you said that we would have to modify the code a little bit.
Hmm.
All right, you guys should have gotten an email on that. And I'll start figuring all this out. Maybe we can borrow. Well, we don't have any A100s at SDSC. Anyway, we'll figure it out. Okay, so we'll be in touch over the weekend. Are you guys going to meet on Tuesday?
likely, and I wanted to work on the applications because we're kind of slow on that front.
Yeah, we need to figure out who are the mentors and get them involved in working on it. But the benchmarking you can start on.
Yeah.
So make sure everybody can get on Expanse and run jobs. And go from there. Has everybody been able to get onto Expanse and run a job? Jijan, you can probably stop sharing now so I'd like to see everybody in one. There we go.
Mary, for the job,
Hi, Gloria.
should we be afraid of our limits? Like I like every time I fail at the job because I messed up a dependency, I just kind of like feel like going back to the drawing board. I know it's like 500 hours.
Yeah, you're on the HPC training, HPC students, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Try not to use it all up, and I'll see if I can get a different allocation. I should get one just for the student cluster competition. Let me make that
I'm still having trouble logging onto my account. Like I think the password got messed up for me.
so write a note to consult@sdsc.edu and ask them to help
Yeah.
you reset your password. They're pretty helpful on that. Usually what I think they'll do is they'll give you a link, you go online and a one-time link and you reset it.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, go ahead and if you still have trouble, write them again. There's something else. Should be in the right group as well. What's our group? SDS 173?
173, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so don't let me forget. It'll take a week or two but if I write an application for the allocation for just the training, We won't have a lot, but we'll have more than sharing it with all the other people in the HPC student training group. So I will try and get that done. Not today. It won't happen before the weekend. I've got a final report I need to work on. So
Mary,
good point. Yeah.
Did you send the email? I don't see it.
Well, sometimes I send an email and then it doesn't go out because I'm using the Outlook web client. And so then I go back at the end of a very busy day. Like today, I see 3 that never went out. So I'm watching it. It's saying sending, sending, sending. And now it thinks it sent it. So now thank you for mentioning that, because now I think you should have gotten it. Did you get it?
Yeah. Does anyone else see it? Or
I don't see it either,
Let me see it.
but it'll come in. It's not like
Okay, Kai.
What?
Let's set this straight. What time are we meeting?
4.
We're all here. 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Yes.
Tuesday and Thursday.
On Tuesday, right?
Tuesday and Thursday, but mostly Tuesday.
No, I think we need to have some more meeting times to get together and run the benchmark together.
No, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like we
Yeah,
have what?
Tuesday, Thursdays. Maybe Tuesday, Thursdays at 4 o'clock. Kai, did you put in a repeating one for Thursday at 3:30 or just a one time?
Well, the 3:30 was for today, but for future ones, I'm gonna make it so it's repeating for Tuesday, Thursday, 4 to 6.
Okay.
It looks like it's repeating currently for Thursday, but not for Tuesday yet.
Yeah, I'm fixing that.
Okay, thanks, Kai.
No problem.
Oh, I saw the email.
You got it? Yay.
I heard it
Yeah,
from my
I got
phone.
it now.
Cool.
Okay, so you guys got that. And I just sent the email from Anthony about the GPUs. So this year I tried to start the process of putting the system together early, but it's taken this long. I don't know what other way to do is, to, like, we've been asking for a couple of months now for some GPUs, and finally it's too late to get all the ones we wanted. So each year is different. I'm a little disappointed, but with supply side stuff, if that's what he says is the answer, the reason, then we have to just live with that. All right, guys, I'm going to go. I'll leave you to keep going until 6 o'clock. You should talk about the different applications. We should talk about, I know one of them, Bob, would be a natural mentor because he's a co-author on the paper that's referenced. I forget which one that is.
So let's make
yeah, but maybe what we usually do is we make a spreadsheet on Google and start listing the applications and pick a lead and a co-lead, and it's kind of, we've tested it on Expanse, we've tested it on the cluster kind of notes. You guys figure out how you want to track that, but we do need to figure out who are the leads for the applications, team lead, and who would be our mentor. And then, like for benchmarking, Marty and Mahi are awesome for that. They benchmark those applications on all new systems and do annual benchmarking. So they know those inside and out. And like I said, I think Bob is a natural for another one. And then we have to figure out the other 2.
For sure.
Oh, I have to go.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye. Let's make a new doc for this. SCC23. No. Let
I'm
me
taking
get-
my niece and my sister to swim lessons, by the way, so I'm gonna go soon.
Oh, for sure, that's fine. I'm making a document for like notes, for like metadata type notes for each of the applications. So I think we should. So we have because this is mainly so I don't have to search through Discord messages because I hate doing that. But let's say we have HPL, HPCG, ML, impact. Repro. Let's see. And then
Can we make like some kind of Google Drive to store stuff?
we do have one.
Wait. Oh yeah. Link please.
Can you share the Google Drive link because I can't find it every time when I'm looking.
Yeah, I just at some point I think I just started and it's been a lifesaver for me. Let's see, what's the paper called?
Let me
Symmetric.
see if I can find it. I gotta go soon, but you know. I think I can make it. Also, I downloaded the video of MPass in 720, so you don't have to go through that horrendous like uh video playing that they have.
For sure. Okay, so I guess the big ask is which ones are you guys like? Which applications are you guys interested in?
I'm kind of interested in MPass because that's just the one I know the most about right now. So if nobody else wants to do that, I'll do that one.
Let's see. Well, I've mostly expressed interest in the repro paper, which is literally just a math paper. And I think we should probably. I think Zishan is going with MLPerf
Yes.
because I don't
I
want
don't think I have a preference for mine.
because I sort of want it not funneled onto like it. I want it funneled onto one person. I don't want them doing it on their own. You get me?
Yeah, there's also the like the alternate versus the travel team thing, so
Oh right.
which is unfortunate. Which actually I kind of wanted to like mention it to Jeremy and Tristan. Like, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, they're still gonna go, right? Right, Kai?
Yeah,
That's what the
I
other money
mean-
is.
No, the alternates are going.
Yeah, I'll go.
And the Bright said they'll go through the conference when we're busy. So
Realistically, alternates are the ones that get the most out of the conference because they don't have to be in the booth.
you were one actually, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Son of a bitch. I gotta go actually.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah, have a
Do
good day.
you have a preference, Kyle? And Gloria?
I don't have a huge. I don't have a. Feel free to go ahead, Gloria.
I don't have a big preference about doing one application, I guess. Yeah, I don't have a big preference.
We don't have big preferences, and I think it's only been what me, Zishan, and Tristan who. What we could do is just sort of. So I guess let me check the calendar. So going up to next Tuesday's meeting, because I'm realistically not going to be able to do any of the SCC stuff until Monday after tomorrow. I think we should start like all of us collectively read up on each of the applications and sort of go over what we've like learned about, and it's like, and after like I guess like 3 weeks, which is 6 meetings, we'll have like a good idea on what each of the applications like is like, and then we can decide. How do you guys feel about that?
So
Sounds
I
good.
feel that
Right.
that sounds like a good idea.
So like I guess so for next week, I think we should next week we could go like, do we want to touch the applications first or the benchmarks first?
Wait, what does it mean? Are we able to run benchmark at the first time?
So like
Wait,
it's like I want like each subsequent meeting, like that's just like the team, for us to just like go and understand what each of the applications does, like what each of them like the codes do. And so I think for the next meeting we can like go HPL, the week after that HPCG, and then that we should go down the list. And then basically during the meeting, if it's not any like any bookkeeping stuff at the beginning, we just present on what we've learned about the application, and it's like as like our weeks progress, if anyone's like if anyone expressed like explicit interest, then we make them the lead. But like I think everyone should have like an idea of what each of the applications is like. Thoughts?
I'm going to say that the homework for next Tuesday is to go through each benchmark and application to get a general understanding before next Tuesday, and then next Tuesday we can get together and decide who wants to do what, and then we start from there. What do you think?
I think uh I think maybe Kai was saying postpone that this would be longer than next week and just
Yeah.
aggregate a little bit more information about each benchmark. But
So-
correct me if I'm
No,
misquoting
you're
you,
completely
Kai.
right. So I'm thinking like the 20th, like I'm going off the calendar right now. So the 22nd is HPL, 24th is HPCG, 29th is MLPerf, the 31st would be MPass. The 31st, the 5th of September would be 3D MHD, and then the 7th would be the paper. And then that leads that's actually quite nice because that's like sort of gives us a week before school actually starts for us to like specialize, like choose a specialization applications. And then when the actual school year starts for the fall, where each of us can like sort of focus in on our specific applications on top of setting up the cluster as it arrives.
Well, I have some concerns about that because we won't be able to mention who to do what until September 5th. Is that what you said?
No, I mean
thinking,
like by the time
so
we've
once,
covered all the applications in terms of like reading up on them or like getting them running on Expanse.
are you saying for each meeting everybody, all the entire team focus on one application or benchmark?
Yes.
I think that that's a good timeline also because that gives us time to cover all the applications before we make our poster, or we probably should start before then, but at least we'll have covered them before the posters do.
Oh, true, because the poster is due the 15th, which is the week before we finish all the applications. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point, Kyle. So if there's no objections, I would say we try to like we start just chewing through each of the applications. So like HPL first.
Well, I still have a little bit worries about that because I feel like it's not very time efficient.
I mean, this is mostly just so everyone understands what every other person's role is in the team, and so like if someone is like unable to sort of like, because like last year what had happened was someone got sick.
Mhm.
And the rules of the competition is you can only access the cluster if you're on site, so you can't do it remote. And so they couldn't actually like contribute as much, and so the other people had to like sort of not pick up slack, but like sort of like just run the applications for them in their stead. Because like they still have all the knowledge about the application, but like they couldn't do it. So like if we all have like a basic understanding of like at least how to run it and like what's going on under the hood, it's like a good baseline for everyone to like specialize afterward. If you get me.
Yeah, because I'm more preferring to the specialized one. But what you said make a good point. I agree. I'm just a little
I
bit
think
concerned about time. What do you think about having two benchmark or applications for one meeting, or we can stick with one benchmark per meeting?
I'm saying one per meeting just because at least from my understanding, starting up on reading one of the applications, it's kind of like a very high initial cost, and then it's sort of like the 2 days intermissions kind of makes it sort of hard to fit in another application.
Yeah, agree. Okay, yeah, sure. I think one. Mhm.
I was just gonna say also like we if we constrain the meetings to that, that doesn't necessarily limit time just outside of the meetings. Like you know, I have no preference, although like looking at this, like I'm interested in learning more about MLPerf because this is like, you know, a widely used benchmark. So like outside of the meetings, like if there's work that you want to do on that, I'd be happy to, you know, learn from whoever is interested in leading that, or the math benchmark that you mentioned, Kai. Like I think we can do little bits of work sort of outside of the main
No, for sure.
benchmark presentation
is
for that week. So that might like address your concern, Yusha.
like my thing of wanting like each of the meetings be tailored for an application is just so we have a set timeline sort of like what we're covering. But like we can like meet outside of those hours, which is completely natural.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And outside of that, I think we're pretty much good for this meeting. Otherwise, unless you guys have other suggestions.
Just out of curiosity, what was the benchmark that you said you were interested in, Kai? The math one?
Oh, that is okay. So that is the reproducibility paper. So what it's actually on the SCC site.
Oh,
But
it's the reproducibility challenge.
Yeah. So they give you a paper and some code, and you just reproduce the results. But I was interested because it's a numerical analysis paper, and that's what I'm trying to get back into.
Have they shared that paper yet? I don't see it
Um,
under the reproducibility challenge.
It's under the paper, the PDF part, in the ACM webpage.
Okay. Is it on the just the SC20? Is it on the student cluster competition page?
Yeah, it's at the very bottom.
Okay.
And also
I might just have to look around.
also one last thing that's sort of not mentioned in the sort of training set we have is who is going to take on the role of the mystery application. And that's basically comes down to whoever we think, or whatever set of people we think is the best at like software development. And it's like, because they don't tell you what the mystery application is, and up until the start of the competition. And the mystery application is like MPass in terms of that it's a scientific code of some that of a paper that was released from a previous SC, and we're just supposed to run that application under their data set. That's just something to keep in mind. And I think what was I going with this? Because actually, I don't know. I'm stalling what I'm going on with this, but you get me, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Who on the team did the challenge last year? I'm just
Last
curious.
year it was David, which ended up being that he realistically didn't do much of the other applications. He just kind of vibed up until the day of the competition. He just kind of chewed through the reproducibility challenge.
Okay.
And a lot of it came down to him having a lot, like just a lot of software experience and just using containers. Otherwise, what else have we got missing? But I think that's a good stopping point. And we're gonna need to figure out Tristan, you're gonna need to figure out the expense
Yeah.
excess, right? I think it
I
should
already
be
sent 2 emails, so I'm waiting on a response from the console, like
perfect.
at Expanse. Yeah.
Worst case, if you're not able to run codes up until Monday, I'll add your SSH key to my account.
All right. Yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, that's like worst case though. But if you all can run jobs and start going through all this stuff, we're pretty much solid for Monday's meeting. Or not Monday, Tuesdays. I think it's 5:30, so if you guys want to leave, I've drawn. I have nothing else to say.
Pretty tired today.
Oh, really?
The on campus tomorrow.
I will be
I
on
am.
campus 12:30.
Okay, or till 12:30.
Yeah.
Wait, for
Because you
tomorrow?
drive back on Friday.
Yeah, I drive back to my parents' house because I'm taking I'm moving, well, my brother's moving into Berkeley, so I'm going with him.
Oh, nice.
Kai, for tomorrow, didn't we need to go to Mahidar's office or Chris?
Oh yeah, meet with them so that for them to verify hardware stuff. I don't know when that is though.
What time works for you? Or do you know what the office is?
Mahi's office? Hmm. I should know this, but I don't. Crap.
Or what time do we meet on campus tomorrow?
Well, I'm normally there at like 8, so it's a 4-hour period.
8?
What do you mean 8? Is that early or late?
8? 8 a.m.?
Yes.
I think our internet is
It's a little,
slowing down.
yeah, it's a little crap. I'm in my apartment right now. So if you want to meet like 9, that works.
Sure, 9, at least that is later.
For sure. Oh, right. Cluster shifts. Well, we can figure that out later, but I don't want anyone in there for more than 9 hours at a time.
What is morning cluster shift?
So essentially, so during competition day, you have 48 contiguous hours to do like all your application and benchmarking. But like people go to sleep. So there's going to be someone on the night shift and the morning shift. And I don't want anyone either there too long or they're alone for too long. So we were gonna have to figure out the schedule for that, but that's like a later thing.
You said 8 a.m. was early, so
That's
maybe
super extremely early.
maybe you don't
Zishan,
want
I
to
think
get
you
up
might
for
be
that.
taking the night shift.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's what I'm getting at.
Also, if you look at the map, our hotel is like a block away from the convention center, which is very nice. We can just walk.
That's awesome.
And then I think that is all. I'll post meeting expectations for next week on the recordings channel. So, because I think Paco and Austin are missing it. Am I missing someone? I'm missing someone. I am not. Oh, I guess I'm miscounting something. Oh, I'm not counting myself. That's fine. Okay. I think we're good for today. So I'm gonna head off and I'll post a recording in a bit. Bye guys.
Thank you. See you guys.
Uh,